What's up, everyone? This is Gin, and welcome to my podcast where I help you learn English faster and prepare for your IELTS test a lot more effectively. And today we're still going to talk about education, but some other aspects of the topic. So basically, many parents today pay for private tutors to teach their children after school hours. What do you think about this idea? Do you think that this approach is going to benefit children or is going to do more harm than good? And we're also going to talk about, teachers in today's podcast. So the fact that fewer and fewer young people are choosing to become teachers is a very worrying trend in our society. And we're going to talk about the reasons why many people actually steer away from the teaching jobs when they choose to go to university or when they enter the job market. Okay, so let's first talk about tutors. Of course, it is quite common for families to employ teachers to help their sons and daughters after school hours. I don't think that I need to explain the reasons why parents are doing this because, of course, children who actually receive extra tuition are more likely to succeed because they have better exam results and therefore their attitude towards schooling could also be better, and they have a chance to mingle with people who are much older than them. So it is reasonable to say that children who receive extra lessons with their tutors are more likely to become more mature and are empowered to succeed later in life because with decent qualifications, they may manage to get a rewarding and a well-paid job in the future. We also need to acknowledge that this is not always the case though, because many tutors are not really doing their job well because they may just go to the class and teach the child very unhelpful things, and they may just spend time doing very unproductive things or kill time and receive the money. This is not uncommon though, because many children are very resistant. They just don't want to study, and because their parents force them to study with a tutor, they would just rebel and refuse to cooperate. And many tutors actually give up and go to class and, kill time by doing personal things and letting the child do what he wants. And the result is actually a child who is devious and is prone to using people. And we also need to factor in the fact that if a child spends an hour or two every day, studying with his tutor, then he has an hour or two less to relax and play with his friends. And this will probably affect his social skills and probably his imagination skills, because when you play with your friends, then there are some games that require you to be a little bit creative so that you can win. And they just do not have enough time or enjoy as much quality time with their family members and their peers, which can have a devastating effect on the child's emotional growth. And this is often coupled with the fact that children often feel under a lot of pressure because since their parents pay a lot of money for their education, they often feel that they must do brilliantly in the classroom, and the amount of pressure is huge. Many young people often fail to cope with such pressure and develop very negative attitudes toward schooling. And some young people even feel I can't let my parents down and I must do brilliantly in the class so that my parents would feel proud of me. This is incredibly damaging to the child's emotion because whenever he receives a bad mark and he's prone to very negative thoughts he's a loser or he's not really worthy of their parents' love, And since he failed to live up to his parents' expectations, he might as well die, and many people actually committed suicide because of this pressure. And this is very common in countries where standardized testing is the norm, and parents just pay way too much attention to their kids' scores, and they just fail to realize that they need to grow as a person. And of course, developing academically is important, but they need to develop as a person too. So of course, we need to do everything within our power to enable our children to flourish and prosper and thrive at school. But by no means should parents force their kids to have extra classes after school hours, because this seemingly well-intentioned approach may indeed do more harm than good. Alright, so let's talk about the reasons why there's a reduction in the number of graduates choosing to become teachers around the world. Well, it is my genuine belief that the fall in popularity of teaching is probably related to economic and social factors. Firstly, salaries paid by schools are comparatively low because teachers these days can't teach after school hours, because in Vietnam, if a teacher chooses to teach after school hours, he may get his teaching license suspended, and he's not going to be able to get a teaching job anymore. So as noble as the teaching profession may sound, it doesn't actually provide teachers with a reasonable amount of income. For example, in Vietnam, the salary of a teacher is equivalent to an unqualified worker who works in a factory, and the teaching profession is not held in high regard in our society anymore. Well, I can't wrap my head around the fact that teachers these days are receiving so much less respect and admiration from people. I still remember that when I was about 5 years old, I actually aspired to be a teacher because that was what my teacher did. I thought that she was so cool, and it was a very noble job, and I wanted to be a teacher. But these days, if you ask kids, who they want to be, no one would want to be a teacher. They would just think about jobs such as like a movie star, or a singer, or an entrepreneur, because these jobs actually provide them with a lot of money and fame. And the teaching job is getting a little bit more difficult because parents just don't seem to get it, because it's like your parents want their kids to receive the best possible education, but they don't allow teachers to do their job well. They just interfere whenever they want. For example, if they think that this teacher is not doing fine, or the teacher is being a little bit too drastic because he uses punishments to discipline their kids, they may just ask the school boards to remove the teacher. But it didn't happen in the past because my generation, or even my father's generations, actually thought that a kid has to be disciplined, and it is the authority is in teacher's hand. Teachers did wield a lot of power back then when it comes to teaching a child, but now it doesn't seem so. So obviously, if we want to make the teaching profession to be a little bit more attractive, there has to be a pay rise, or teachers need to receive financial incentives from either the school or the government. And teachers should also be allowed to teach after school hours to supplement their income. And there should be some kind of awareness campaigns about the importance and the value of teachers so that the general public and children may perceive teachers in a more positive light. And the changes also need to come from parents who must understand that teachers should be given the powers to discipline poorly behaved children. So if teachers don't need to worry about financial problems anymore, and if they enjoy like an improved social status in our society, and if they can enjoy a more positive teaching experience, I do believe that there will be a rise in the number of teachers in our society. And this is very important because it makes sure that no schools are understaffed and children can be educated properly. Cool, so that's about it for today, and I think there will be about 4 or 5 podcasts more about education before we move to another topic, which is about lifestyle, which sounds like way more fun than education. Well, anyway, I hope that you guys have learned something after listening to my podcast, and see you guys in the next episode.